Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining JiraCon 22. I'm really honored to be part of this fantastic event. My name is Jose Ramirez. I'm Director of Agile Delivery at Kaplan. Kaplan is a leader in the educational service sector. And the talk that we're giving to you is not about an application or add-on or a plugin for Jira. Is about how to use Jira, the standard Jira, the premium version of Jira, specifically the advanced roadmap module of Jira, to conduct up in an efficient way the program increment planning. This is also not closely aligned to the safe implementation of PA planning, but the regular PA planning that the majority of the organization take care of. So starting discussing this, let's start with a quick summary of what is a PA planning. What is our understanding of what is a PA planning? As you probably know, PA planning is a regular event, usually quarterly, and some organizations conducting in every 2 quarters to plan the next program increment. The program increment is the next level of the planning. The first level of the planning is a sprint level planning, and then the program increment to plan how all the teams aligned in a value stream plan to create the new increment of the program associated with the value stream. And usually the PA planning, again, using safe methodology or other hybrid methodology, have 2 phases. A preparation phase that is conducted at the value stream level to review business goals, review technology context, and create what is the more important input for the PA planning, that is the feature list. The feature list that come from business and the product organization, that will be the target for the team. So the prototype feature list is the input to the Agile teams. So yeah, is the input to the PA planning itself. The second phase is the execution phase. And depending on the framework that you use, if you phase, this is usually comprised in 2 days. In other organizations like Kaplan, for example, we use a different approach, and the execution phase is an ongoing activity. And the last day of the quarter, or the last sprint of the quarter, we conduct a review of the PA planning results, that in this case is the program board. So during the execution phase, at the Agile team level, POs with the Scrum Master and the rest of the teams break down the features into epics, usually into epics, size the epics, create draft stories, determine the dependencies. This is really, really important because it's part of the view or the visualization that we want to provide with the program board, and also assess and determine the risk. The primary outcome of the PA planning is the program board and the dependency map. In the picture in the slide, you can see a physical program board. This is the kind of program board that you used to produce when we work in a physical environment, with sticky notes and strings connected the sticky notes, and each of the lines or the swim lanes represent each of the teams in the value stream. We at Kaplan are 100% remote, so we need to come up with a solution to continue to conduct PA planning in a distributed and on remote, 100% remote environment. So based on that, I started evaluating advanced roadmaps. And advanced roadmaps is a very, very cool feature of Jira, available for the premium accounts of Jira. And as a matter of fact, advanced roadmap was a driver to consider our migration from server to cloud. We migrated from server to cloud during 2021, migrated 3 major divisions of the company. Now we have a pretty large instance of Jira, more than 6,000 users and more than 10,000 users for Confluence. So before the migration, when I was evaluating advanced roadmaps, I started asking myself a lot of questions about how can we use advanced roadmaps in addition to the standard use. So the initial intention for advanced roadmaps, and that is the intention that Atlassian poses to us, is that the advanced roadmap is to combine boards, projects, filters to create a high-level plan, an all-encompassing plan that span multiple teams in the organization. So you know that in Jira, basic roadmaps are available at the board level, and the basic roadmaps are built based on the epics defined in each project. But advanced roadmap is the same concept, but with a lot of more configuration, more flexibility, more views, a part of this single basic view of the basic roadmaps, and the issue source, the source of the advanced roadmaps can be determined based on a list of projects or a list of filters or a list of boards or a combination of those. So my initial hypothesis is that what if we determine a combination, we define a combination of filters, labels, and custom fields to accommodate one of the views of advanced roadmaps to be similar to the program board. So that was my hypothesis. Is that possible? I started playing with that, and you can imagine that the conclusion is yes. It's not only totally possible, provides a lot of advantages in terms of visibility, live update, flexibility, and more important, provides the possibility to conduct a very, very efficient program increment planning in a remote and distributed environment. So let's review briefly the main concepts of advanced roadmaps. So advanced roadmaps is available at Jira in the plans menu. And as you can see, you click on the plans menu, is identified with the number 1 in this slide. You have the plans that you created, and then the creation of plan and the settings. So this is the initial view. You can open an existing plan. A plan is an advanced roadmap. It's a kind of confusion. Use the plan terminology and the roadmap terminology, but it is what it is. And identified on number 2 is the usual gear icon for the configuration. So you can access advanced roadmap for there and create plans. The administrator are able to provide permissions to all the users in the instance to create roadmaps or view roadmaps. And also in the advanced roadmaps, you can restrict access to specific roadmaps. The roadmaps, the advanced roadmap, are connected with the issues that were selected to populate the roadmaps. And that is the reason of the review changes button that you see in the upper right level. So you can work directly in the advanced roadmaps, and all the changes in fields are automatically synced with Jira if you opt to do that. So you can accept, accept the changes, and the changes are synced with Jira. So this is the basic navigation look of advanced roadmaps. In advanced roadmaps, as I mentioned before, we have more flexibility in terms of configuration and also visualization. So we have the possibility, is tagged with number 1 in the slide, to have a specific configuration for each plan. So it's not only a global configuration, but a specific configuration for each plan. So each plan can have a permission scheme specific for that plan. and also another configuration in terms of how we need to present the map itself, or the roadmap itself. Also, we can have scenarios based on one plan. So we can define a plan and then several scenarios. For example, the worst case scenario, the best scenario. We can play with reorder, for example, the issues and the epics. And so those are different views stacked over the map, the roadmap itself. All right, identify with number 3 is very important functionality of advanced roadmaps. That is the different roadmap views that we have. By default, we have 4 views: the basic view, the dependency management view, the sprint capacity management, and the top level planning. I will focus on the top level planning because it's the view that we can use, we can customize to mimic the program board. But you can add more views. There's some managed view functionality, so you can add more views. You can, for example, take the basic view, that is a basic roadmap view, and add more fields, reorganize the view, filter, create filters, etc. The very important concept that is included in number 3 is the teams concept. And again, this is really, really, really important. Teams is the way that we use, and is a field in Jira to identify agile teams with a name. So you don't use, and this is really, really important, you don't use the program key to identify a team. Because in Jira, as you probably know, a project is in reality a backlog. But you can have several teams working on the same project, working on the same backlog. So how can we identify specific agile teams? Well, that's the answer to that is using the teams field. And here in Advanced Roadmap, there's an interface to identify teams in a way that the teams are shared to all the organizations. So everybody with access to Advanced Roadmap can go to teams and see all the teams in the organization, or in the value stream you are using Advanced Roadmap by value stream. The other important component of this, many of them showing in label 3, is the dependency report. So at the end of the presentation, I will show you the final result of the PA planning, and the final result will be a combination of a top-level planning customized to mimic the program board and the dependencies report. All right, let's move on. The last part of this summary is how the view looks like. This is a basic view, but it's the same for the rest of the view. So we have in number 1, the first column, the hierarchy of the issues, and this is really, really important. I will be taking some time later explaining you the importance of the hierarchy. So in this case, you have the number 1 in this slide is issue PS 67. It's an epic, and then under the epic you have several stories. So this hierarchy can be customized. So instead of having only epics and story, we can add more issue types in the hierarchy below and above the epic, and that is extremely, extremely important for several reasons that I will explain later. You have fields. They start with number 2. On those fields, the standard fields are, the standard roadmap fields like start date, due date, the team, and other fields like release. But you can add as many fields as you want. In the current version of Advanced Roadmap, there's only one restriction for custom fields. You cannot use multi-line custom fields, so large text custom fields, but you can accommodate single line text fields, custom fields. The rest of the custom fields, like for example, drop downs, multi-value, select are all supported by advanced roadmap, and that is really, really important for all the data and the fields that you need to mimic. Again, the objective is to mimic the program board. And then the area tagged with number 3 is the roadmap itself, the Gantt chart. That is not common for the program board, but it's really, really useful for several reasons. The first reason is that you have a visual representation of the sequence and the parallelism of the execution. And the other reason is that the color-coded that you can see here in the basic roadmap functionality available in Jira, the color that you see in the bars is the color associated with the epics. But here in Advanced Roadmap, you can associate the color of the bars with another field, for example, the risk. And you will see in the final result I will present you later that, for example, you can use red for the high risk epics, and orange for medium risk, and green for low risk. So in using that approach, you have a visual cue, immediate visual cue of the risk, not only the sequence and the parallelism of the epic and stories, but an immediate visual cue of the risk level. All right, so based on this review of the capabilities and functionalities of Advanced Roadmap, I was pretty sure that it's totally possible to do the job. So how the question now is not if we can use Advanced Roadmap, but how can we use Advanced Roadmap in Jira to produce the program board and the dependency map. All right, let's start with and this is the important part of the presentation. Let's start with a kind of step-by-step review of the thing that you need to consider to use Advanced Roadmap for the PA planning, specifically to reproduce the program boards and the dependency map. The first thing is the definition of the issue type hierarchy. In the left hand side of the slide, you can see the issue type hierarchy definition in Advanced Roadmap that in reality is a global setup in Jira right now. So as you can see, the number 1 is the epic. And then you have some issue types below and above. Below the epic, you see stories and subtasks. Stories are, in reality, the name here is story, and the standard name and the standard label that Atlassian put is story, but in reality represent all the standard issue types. So you define issue types like, for example, features that is very common, or bug, or defect, etc. Those can be, included in the Advanced Roadmap at the story level, and then subtask. That is a standard. It's very straightforward. You can opt to represent or not stories and subtasks, and keep the program board at the epic level. That is the usual way to do it. So you can opt to present the stories and the subtasks or not, or keep the at the epic level. The important thing is above, and this is the configuration that we use at Kaplan. So we define another issue type called initiative, another one called goal, and another one called theme. And the way that we define it is to mimic, to represent the strategic planning vectors of the organization. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see what the relation between initiatives and epics. So epics are body of works that can be accomplished in a quarter, if you are using a quarter as a base of planning for PA planning. So epics should be completed in a quarter or less. But initiatives are larger body of work and usually comprise more than one epic and usually and cannot be completed in a single quarter. So that's the definition of initiative. So, for example, in an organization, you can define it as an initiative, a new student-facing portal, or a new component for a B2B interface, and that encompasses work from several teams. And each team defines epics. And another important thing is that you can see the epic number 1 in the slide is a standard epic. So it's an epic with several story and tasks and subtasks. But epic number 3, you can have an epic that is used by several teams. And I will talk about that later. The other important thing with this hierarchy is that based on this hierarchy, Advanced Roadmap handles the roll-up, meaning that all the progress at the story level, at the subtask level, will be rolled up to the epic. So the epic progress is based not in an input field, it's based on the progress of the stories and the subtask. And in the Advanced Roadmap, you can define that the progress is rolled up based on issue count or based on story points. Also, the roll-up can be used for other fields. For example, the dates, and also the risk, etc. So, for example, you have an epic, and the risk associated with the epic is not a direct input of the risk at the epic level, but a roll-up of all the risk associated with the stories that are below. Following the same reasoning, using this hierarchy that you see in the slide, the progress and the risk associated with the epics are rolled up to the initiatives, and then roll up to the goals, and then roll up to the themes. And this definition makes the program board, the resultant program board, very useful for leadership, because leadership perhaps don't want to see the progress at the epic level, but definitely are interested in the progress at the initiative level, or the progress at the goal level. Yes, I have a question in the chat. Can we plan how to calculate or set the finish date or task Jira using the Advanced Roadmap? For sure, you can decide, Lakshmi, that the last date or the finish date in the interface, remember, is the due date, can be determined by rollup. And in this interface, I don't know, you see the R beside some dates. That R is the meaning of that R. That in the new version is a curved arrow, is a rollup. So you don't need to define a specific date for an epic, but the date can be rolled up from the issue text below. All right, let's move on. So the issue type hierarchy is really, really important. Suppose that in your organization you don't define themes, or you don't have goals, or you have only initiatives, so you can define all the initiatives, or goals and initiative, or another names. But it's really, really important that above epics, you define all the issue types and the proper hierarchy for reporting. And this is for reporting and monitoring tracking. You plan at the epic level, but you report at the initiative, in this case, at the initiative goal level. Okay, the next important thing, so after you define the hierarchy, you need to determine how Advanced Roadmap will be interpreting, will be treat the dependencies. And that is really, really, really important. As you know, we have more than 10 different links in Jira, link types to link stories. Some of the links are not based on dependencies, but relations. For example, we can link to issues with the relates to link type to represent that the stories are related in a way. Or we can link one story with another story with a link type that is called implement, just to represent that the second story implements the idea that is expressed in the first one. But in the advanced roadmap, we need to define, and this is the interface to do it, the link types that we have in Jira, and how many of those will be treated as dependencies. In this case, let me tell you, the interface is really, really good. So this is the actual definition that we have at Kaplan for the dependency. So for example, we use depends on, that is at the bottom, to represent if A depends on B and A is scheduled before B. The important thing with this, and is related with the question that Lakshmi put in the chat, advanced roadmap has a functionality that is called auto schedule. So if we have an epic, for example, let's think at the epic level, an epic with a start date and a due date, and then several epic that depends on that epic, advanced roadmap can auto schedule the epics, the start date of the epics based on the dependencies. Dependent has a question in the chat. Will advanced roadmap override team names in Jira? No. This is a separate name. It's called teams, shared teams. So in Jira, you have the project key and you have a teams field. My recommendation is to use the team field in the filters. I know that some companies, some person use another field for filtering information based on things like components, for example. My strong recommendation is to start using the team field in Jira. All right, so again, the hierarchy first, really, really important for roll-up. And then the dependency tagging definition to properly define the dependencies in advanced roadmap. With these two configuration, we are, more than 60% of the definition of the program board. So we have the hierarchy in place and we have the dependency in place. Now, let's talk about the input to the program board. And this is essential, because you don't want it. For example, you're creating a program board for a value stream, and in the value stream you have 5 projects or 5 teams, but you don't want to include all the issues that those teams are working on. You want to include only the new issues that will be working or are planned for the next quarter. So how can we do that? So only rollover issues. For example, we're planning for Q4. We're starting Q4 right now. Next week is the start of Q4, October, November, and December. In the program board for Q4, we want to see the new issues for Q4 and the rollover issues from Q3. So thinking about a good solution for that, we come up with the use of labels. So we use labels to tag the epics to the corresponding quarters. And we come up with a naming convention. In this case, for example, well, this is not an example, it's a reality. We use 2022 Q1 to represent issues for Q1, 2022 Q4, and so forth. So now, at the end of the year, we have 2022 Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, representing the issues that work in each of the quarters. If we're creating a program board for Q4, we can create a filter, and that is a filter. There you can see a filter. only for Q4 issues and focus on Q4 issues. Why labels? Because labels is a global object in Jira. So you define the 2022 Q4 label in Jira, and it's available for everyone. So you don't need coordination about the proper use of the label, which is the label. So the label is the, all right. All right, so based on the labels, and this is an example. Of course, you can use another kind of filters. Here you can see we are using this is accumulated program board, and the filter that I'm showing in the slide is for the entire year. But for example, you can have filters that say labels in 2022 Q4 and issues that are in Epic labels with 2022 Q4. In this case, we're excluding shelf and cancel issues, but you can come up with all the statuses. So the important thing here, the important concept, is the use of the labels. And again, why labels are not components? Because labels are global. We can define the first use of the label, and then all the teams can use the same label. The labels can be created in an automatic fashion. So we can have an automation that based on a date, new labels can be created. So for example, by the final sprint of Q4, we will be creating 2023 Q1 and 2023 Q2, Q3, or Q4. So then the labels for the upcoming periods. So this is the first additional field to define. The other fields, and you can see in the right-hand side of the slide, all the fields that we use. For example, is the use of the field team. I answered a question before. We use teams and not the project key. That is essential. So, and the teams defined in the bunch roadmap are shared teams. And in addition to that, we need a couple of custom fields for information that is not available by default. Some of the custom fields that we use are, for example, dependencies. Is you can see in the right-hand side in the interface, and I will show you how dependencies are shown in the program board. Risk. Then in our case, we define risk as a multi-value drop-down with 3 levels: high, medium, and low. And we have 3 colors associated. We use the red, orange, green standard thing. And then one problem with the advanced roadmaps, one problem with basic roadmaps and with advanced roadmaps is the narrative. There is no narrative and associated with the advanced roadmap or with the view itself. And the problem is that sometimes the fields, the roadmap itself, the colors are not enough to explain the situation. So you need a narrative. You need an artifact, a component to tell the story. So we come up with a solution that in the right-hand side of the interface, you can see a custom field named workstream nodes. The workstream node is a single line, a custom field included in the interface for the POs to enter a short narrative, explaining, for example, the reason of the risk or the reason of the dependency or some specific comment about the status. Those fields in the advanced roadmap can be compressed and expand to show the content, but it's really, really useful for telling the story. That is a essential feature of this kind of artifacts like the program board that will be visible and available for the organization after the PA planning. So in the physical version of the program board, the physical version is in a room, in a development room. this digital version of the program board is an information radiator. It's available for the entire organization, and it's a live document. So you need to come up with something that can provide more information and narrative and tell the story for all the people that eventually have access and see the program board. That's the reason of the notes. Another fields that you can see here, the progress, that in our case, as you can see, is based on issue count, and also the parent. The parent is a field, it's a standard field that shows, for example, for an epic, what is the initiative that that epic is connected to. It's really important to see, or the goal. So which goal is the parent goal for a given initiative or a given epic. So again, hierarchy, dependencies, and custom fields. Let's come up with and we are right into the final part of the presentation. So what is the product owner checklist? So the product owner is a key actor in the PA planning. So the first activity is break down the epics, the features into epics, and determine if an epic is shared. Then it's shared with several agile teams. Then define the PO. The second thing is set the epics for the quarter, and this is the way to do it. As I mentioned before, is using the labels that we define. Then link the epics to corresponding strategic level vectors, and that is done using the parent link. So an epic can link to an initiative using the parent link, and the initiative to the goal using the parent link, and such and such. Identify dependencies using the standard links, and remember that you don't use all the link types. Use the link types included in advanced roadmaps, in the configuration of advanced roadmaps. Identify risk using the custom field, and then draft stories and link them to the corresponding epics. This is the checklist for the POs, and if the PO do this at each agile team level, all the information will come up together in program board. Let me show you the final result. And the blue squares are, I am giving information because this is real information from my organization. So you can see here, and a program board, and look at the columns and the field section. So we have assignee, start date, due date, the status, the progress, and the progress, you see colors there, blue and green. Those are the standard Jira colors. So blue is in progress, green is completed. And you for example, you have there some epics that are almost completed, etc. And then other fields like, for example, the risk level, the workstream nodes, the incoming dependencies, and such. And sorry. And as you can see, the roadmap itself, the Gantt chart, has colors because we use colors associated with risk. So the first epic is high risk. The second epic is low risk. The third one is medium, it's orange. And then gray, no risk at all. And the lines that are connected, one of the epics with other, is the way that we represent the dependencies. So with this view, this is the final program board. You have all the work streams or teams represented in the left-hand side with the epics. So we have one team is open with the epics, and then all the fields associated with that epic. Again, you can filter this view at the epic level or continue to drop down to the story level. And the second part of of the outcome is a dependency. And it's tiny, tiny, but it's intentional because, again, this is real information. You come up with a map, a graph, of all the dependencies. The beauty of this interface in Advanced Roadmap that is way more flexible than the physical one is that in this interface, you can select one epic, one specific epic I put on the top in the filter by issue section of this interface, and you put the key of an epic, and then the map represent the income, the inward and the outward dependency for that epic, that specific epic. So it's really, really, really useful. So if you are analyzing, for example, in the middle of the quarter, the situation on one specific epic in a feature, you can enter that epic and see all the incoming epics and stories at the outward epics and stories from that, and make decision accordingly. So it's not a static dependency report, is a live dependency report. This interface, so both the program board itself, that is the top level planning, and the dependency report are presented together. And again, constitute an information radiator for the organization. One advantage, and let's come up with a conclusion, is that, and this is the conclusion of this, with minimum setup and a single working agreement, it's possible to efficiently use advanced roadmaps in Jira to create the artifacts needed for the PA planning. So we're talking about the program board, and we're talking about the dependency report. So that's the first conclusion of this. The second is that the program board and dependency report created here are live artifacts. So are not static artifacts there, are live artifacts that keep updated as team make progress using stories and epics. So if, for example, you reprioritize one epic, that is reflected immediately in the program board. If you create another story with another dependency, that's reflected immediately in the program board and the dependency report. So I like documents. The third conclusion is that the program board and advanced roadmap can be adjusted to reflect changes in value stream mapping. So imagine that you add another team to the value stream. So it's immediately reflected there. And a comment, this is not such a conclusion, but a comment. Given this, and this is part of conversation, regular conversation with the Atlassian people that we have communication with, I will say that with few changes in advanced roadmaps, like for example, more flexibility in the hierarchies, right now we have a single configuration for the hierarchy, but it will be ideal to have different configuration for issue type hierarchies for each value stream, because one value stream can use goals and initiative, but other value stream can use another configuration. Now the configuration is unique for the instance, and that is a little restricted. And with that, can make it really, really more powerful that is already ready for the creation of the program boards and the conduction of the PA plan. All right, so that is what I have, and I think that we have a couple of minutes for Q&A. I see one question from Joe Hudson. Let's see, can you speak up to labels being dependent of manual action or how to automate? Yeah, labels can be automated. My recommendation, Joe, is to have a kind of governance for that. Establish a very clear governance about the use of labels. As you know, if you leave it to the teams, that can be messy. And can be automated, definitely can be automated. You can create, in the same way that you create sprints, you can automate the creation and also restrict the use of labels. This happy path is predicated on good use. all user. And it's just getting here from JiraCon. Yeah, well, you're in my mind, Joe. So you need a governance for this. You need a governance. And in our case, the Agile Delivery Office, a team inside in the Agile Delivery Office, drive this process. And the program board that you saw in the interface are read-only. So we have specific version of program board for each team. So they use a version of this view at the team level, and then we come up with this view. But this view is read-only, also this one, because the chaos that you mentioned, imagine that people start defining new custom fields and reorganizing the view, we can come up with a real chaos of this. So it's perfect. That's a very yeah. Since anyway cannot label wouldn't lead to discrepancy in reporting, suppose. All right. So well, no, not in reality, because we use a specific naming convention for the filters. So in your example, you use 2022 Q1 or 22 Q1. If the naming convention is 2022 Q1, that will be the label that we represent in the program board. The other one will be ignored. And yes, I think that we have in the Atlassian backlog a lot of requests to provide more control on labels. Oh, cool, Joe. I think that we have more than that. We have more than that, and yeah. So let me go to this slide because we are running out of time. For Joe and the other that attend the session, this is my contact information: jose.ramirez@kaplan.edu, and this is my linking. I'll be more than happy to receive your comments after this presentation and connect with you and share information. I will love to learn from you also and come up with better solution. That is the idea. Oh, no, you don't filter the advanced roadmap. You don't sort the advanced roadmap based on filters. The filters are used to select the issue, and then inside advanced roadmap, you can define the sorted order. But again, it's a live document, so you can click on the headers and organize by or sort by, for example, assignee, or sort by risk, or sort by any of the fields. So it's live. It's like the document is live. So so you have the issues, the epics and the issues on the left hand side, but you can sort it based clicking on for example, clicking on the assignee, or clicking on the start date, or clicking on the risk level. So the sorting is dynamic. You're welcome. Well, if we don't have any other question, I think that we can wrap up the session. I defer to the technical support to do that. Thank you very much, everyone. And again, this is my contact information, but more than happy to telecontact with you. Take care.